Well, hello and welcome to What Are You Listening To? The show where we talk about good music, or at least music we think is good. I'm your host, Dan. Today we're going to be talking about Chris Stapleton. Well, a few months ago, Chris Stapleton started releasing singles for his upcoming record, Starting Over. It's been 3 years since we've seen a record from Chris Stapleton. I had planned to release this Chris Stapleton record before the new record came out, but life happens, and I'm glad I waited. His new record is now out and it's available everywhere. It's called Starting Over. I must admit, at first listen, I felt like this was a pretty mediocre record for Chris Stapleton, but after a few more listens, this might be my favorite Chris Stapleton record he's put out. So I'm going to give you my take on Chris Stapleton minus the new record, and at the end, I'll be sure to give you some highlights from the new record so you know where to go. So how I first discovered Chris Stapleton was years ago. I love all kinds of music, and I've been listening to tons of music, and I kept hearing Chris's name come up in liner notes, in interviews and discussions, and this was all through many different genres. Somewhere around 2013, I came across his single titled What Are You Listening To? I remember being very impressed with his voice, but not really initially blown away. It was a vibey and smooth song. Then I started researching him more and more. It turned out Chris Stapleton was quite a songwriter. Chris Stapleton has penned many songs, both for the American country genre and several others. Here's just a few you might not know he wrote. If It Hadn't Been for Love by Adele, Crash and Burn by Thomas Rhett, Never Wanted Nothing More by Kenny Chesney, Love's Gonna Make It Alright by George Strait, Your Man by Josh Turner, Comeback Song by Darius Rucker, Keep On Loving You by Steel Magnolias, Whiskey and You by Tim McGraw, and Drink a Beer by Luke Bryan. Not long after discovering the single What Are You Listening To, I just kept hearing Chris's name. Then I started hearing that he was going to have an album coming out. There was kind of this mysterious buzz about this record he was about to release. And I had just started listening to this mysterious record called Traveler when I saw his performance of Tennessee Whiskey with Justin Timberlake. They performed this song at the 2015 CMA Awards. This propelled Chris's name to the forefront of the country, Americana, folk genres of that year. Traveler was easily the record of my year that year it came out. Coincidentally, it won Album of the Year in 2015. The Traveler record had an essence to it, almost a life of its own. Chris had written many songs before, and he had been in many bands. It felt like on the Traveler record, he had just found his spot. Or perhaps for the first time, he was allowed and given the atmosphere to just be himself. Part of this was a relationship between Chris Stapleton and Dave Cobb. Dave is a producer that works out of RCA Studio A in Nashville, Tennessee. Studio A and Dave Cobb are two entities of their own to be explored. If you keep listening to this show, you'll hear a lot more about Dave Cobb and Studio A. Many of my favorite artists work with Dave and at RCA Studio A. So the studio was founded in the 60s by Chet Atkins, Owen Bradley, and Harold Bradley. So many music legends have recorded here over time. The studio was once run by Ben Folds, who helped prevent it from being totally demolished in the early 2000s. Dave Cobb took it over, and he now records there many artists in the folk and Americana genre and much more, with just really natural nature to his production. If you've never heard Chris Stapleton before, the best place I recommend to start is his Traveler record. Start with the opener. It's the title track, Traveler. Everything you need to know about Chris as a solo artist is found in the first 30 seconds of this song. You'll hear a clean guitar starting out the song. It's a vibey and smooth intro, and then everything just flows with his voice. Everything sounds as if it was meant to fit perfectly together. He wrote this song while on a road trip with his wife, who also sings in his band. She bought him an old Jeep and then went on a road trip to go pick it up. They flew to Phoenix and drove it back to Nashville. He said that he wrote this song on I-40 in New Mexico, and when the full band kicks in, you just can't help but nod your head along with it. The song just makes you want to let life's worries go and kick back and relax. This song is the cornerstone of this record. Chris's dad had just died, and he has said that he wanted to just write songs and make a record that he and his dad would want to listen to. So one of my all-time favorite songs by Chris Stapleton, and what I think is one of his best songs, was a song that he wrote and recorded with a different band. Before he was a massive solo artist, he played with two other bands, the Steel Drivers and the Johnson Brothers. He probably played with several more, but those are two well-known ones. With the Johnson Brothers, he wrote and recorded a song called Barely Alive. This song is a must-listen. It's a syncopated, soulful masterpiece. His vocals and writing are so on point. Stapleton is so at home just serving a song and what it needs. This song is the perfect example of that. This beautiful piece of music just confirms it. My opinion, I think one of Stapleton's most underrated songs is Outlaw State of Mind. It's from his Traveler record. It's a bit autobiographical. He touches on veterans issues, mental health, and other social issues. This is a jam song. The music completely supports the lyrics and in fact pushes it further. His great music taste and feel is perfectly displayed here. The band is solid, tight, and invested. It should be noted that this record was recorded live in the room and without a click track. What that means is typically bands have a click in their ears to keep the tempo for everything, and they chose not to do that for this record. Kind of let it flow. So the musicians were in a room together without a computer to keep time. After I learned that, I listened to this song again with headphones on, probably a little louder than I should have. There's so many nuances that just pop out when you listen to a song that way. I just love Stapleton's electric feel and his sound, just phenomenal. I couldn't talk about Stapleton without talking about his follow-up records to Traveler. Live from A Room, Volumes 1 and 2. These are his second and third records, respectively. They were both, again, recorded at Studio A with Dave Cobb. All of the songs on these two records were written before anything on Traveler was written. There are tons of gems on these records. Some highlights that you should check out are Millionaire, Broken Halos, Second One to Know, Hard Livin', Nobody's Lonely Tonight, Midnight Train to Memphis, Friendship, Up to No Good Living, I Was Wrong, Without Your Love, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more packed in these records. So Chris lives in Nashville, Tennessee with his wife Morgan. They have 5 kids. Morgan is an accomplished singer and songwriter herself. Most notably, she co-wrote Carrie Underwood's huge song, Don't Forget to Remember Me. She's also provided background vocals to many records. If you really want to see what she's capable of, go check out the song You Are My Sunshine. This is from the Southern Family compilation record put together by Dave Cobb. Her voice is astonishing, and Chris does some awesome guitar work on this song. Chris is a Kentucky native, and he's closely associated, along with Dave Cobb, with Sturgill Simpson, Tyler Childers, and Jason Isbell. If you don't know any of those names, keep listening to the show. We're bound to cover them eventually. So what Chris is up to now is he just released his newest record, Starting Over. And again, after about a half dozen listens through, I've got to say that this thing is just great. Go check out his song, Arkansas. What a killer tune. Some of my highlights just from start to finish are Cold. It's a great vocal performance and it's going to be an instant Stapleton classic. Arkansas, again, it's just an outright banger. It's an up-tempo, just beautiful song. The song Joy of My Life, I'm going to call it right now. This is going to be another super underrated song. This song is packed with great lyric content and it's just a beautifully written Stapleton song. This song just cuts you right to the gut. Worry Be Gone is a beautiful, shuffling, fast, up-tempo song, just awesome. Watch You Burn, after a few listens, that song really started to stick out to me. Some awesome fuzzy guitar tone that he's got. The content, lyrical content is fantastic. And finally, the last song, Nashville, Tennessee. I'm not really one to break down lyrics of people because they could be interpreted many different ways and I kind of like to leave them as somewhat of a mystery. So I won't break apart what I think he's trying to say here, but he's definitely saying something and you won't be disappointed. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Be sure to comment, send us an email on your thoughts and recommendations for artists you think we should cover. What are you listening to show@gmail.com. As always, keep listening, keep discovering new music.